One clear summer night, Pointage goes out from the witch's cottage and looks up at the stars. He identifies the constellations that he's learned, the deer and the snake. But as he looks at them again, the deer and the snake, could it be instead the stag and the devourer? Hello and welcome back. It's Sphere Hoppers. I'm your host and storyteller, Royce Rosewood. We are continuing our playthrough of Apothecaria. We are now in summer. A couple of bookkeeping things. One, I forgot to track a use of the moonstone in the last episode because we used that to negate poison, so I've marked that here. And secondly, I've looked through the rules and there is no rule for any sort of reward of silver for completing commissions, and this doesn't really make any sense to me. So I'm not going to go back and change and get rewards for things that we already have made, but I am going to add a little rule where we're going to get silver based on our craft level and the value of the object. So also, I've been thinking about all the clues that we've been collecting, and things are starting to fit together in my mind. We know that there is a god called the Devourer, who the cultist was investigating. And we also know the missing witch, Eiffel, grew up in the caves of the Devourer, raised by crabs. And we also know that Hero's Hollow was shaped by a burrowing creature. And so putting all these things together, I'm going to say that this burrowing creature is probably the Devourer. And the story that we heard about the snake constellation, while it may have been modified in time, that might represent the Devourer. And Eiffel has some sort of connection, at least to the place where the Devourer used to live. Same thing with this speaker of the stag, who's somehow against Eiffel, and this constellation of the deer. Just trying to put it all together. So that's kind of where I don't have all the details yet, but that's kind of where I'm thinking. All right, it is the first week of summer, and we get a patient. 4. Someone comes to us with restless bones. Usually caught from necromantic ritual sites, this disease causes the afflicted's skeleton to try to escape. Thankfully, they aren't good at it, so this mostly causes a tingling feeling. All right, and who is it? Oh, there's some sort of clue to the witch. Oh, that's early. All right, we've already got 2 clues from our About the Witch section, so I'm going to move on to the Plot Thickens section. Draw a card. Ace. You find signs that the witch was making preparations for something important. What were they preparing for? Well, I'm going to go to our combined Lore Masters deck, and I'm going to draw an event. I think I'm going to go with a sacrifice. I'm going to draw a namesake card. We're going to call that the Sacrifice of Ink. Pointage is going through journals and papers and finds notes and rituals and spells about something called the Sacrifice of Ink, and finds other evidence, and maybe out further from the witch's cottage finds a place that was prepared for this to happen. Well, back to our patient. Club a monster. So there's a squid. I'm going to draw a secondary to tell us a little bit more about this squid. This one says associated with a spirit or a god. We'll get a name for this squid. Humus. Oh, okay. Sacrifice of ink. Squid associated with a god. The devourer. There's a sort of a wet, sloppy knock at the door to the witch's cottage, and Pointage opens, and there's this squid-like creature, monster, who's kind of wiggling. It says, "Oh, I was expecting to see a Lalix. Oh, can you help me? I've got restless bones." Pointage says, "I don't mean to be impertinent, but do squids have bones, Eumus says. We don't, and that's why I'm so upset by this. It's very distressing. Pointage asks, did you know Alalix in any way? And Eumus says, yes. I was helping her prepare for a ritual, something called the Sacrifice of Ink. She needed my ink, and I've been working with some of the texts of the Devourer, and I think maybe that's what's gotten me all restless with these bones. See? Putting everything together. Okay, so for our ingredients, we are going to get a star shard from the Isles, which we haven't been to yet, but we can fly up there. And then we're going to have to come back down to Heroes Hollow for, I think, a hermit snail. All right, no time limit on this one. So we fly up to the Cloud Isles, mystical floating islands that rest atop a sea of clouds, ranging from the size of a kitchen table to housing entire forests. These floating mysteries are the domain of harpies, air sailors, and gods. Peaceful as the land may be, the clouds are fraught with danger. All right, we need to draw greater than a 1 or equal to. All right, we drew an ace. Foraging around on one of the larger islands, you come across an animal that could have never gotten up here on its own. What is it? Do you escort it back to its original locale? If so, how does that go? Decrease timer by 1 if you do. We're not worried about time for this one, but I think it's more of those sheep that gave him so much trouble last time. So he takes the sheep. He finds this star shard. There are a lot of stories about these shards. They grant wishes, that they glow when you see your true love. They're fairly common up in the Cloud Isles and are everywhere you look after a festival. And now we're going into Heroes Hollow looking for some hermit snail. Now we need to draw greater than a 2. A 10. You take a chance to flick through some of the old books in the ruined library and find a book on something very unexpected or useful. What is it? Note down an excerpt from the book. I think now that we're learning more about the Devourer, I think we're going to learn a little bit more about that. So I'm going to draw a deity card, get a secondary trait, learn more about this Devourer. It says, demands offerings of memories, dreams, or secrets. So flipping through some more books that we find about the Devourer, we find more information about this sacrifice of ink. Alalix was preparing to offer a memory, a dream, or a secret. And we do find a hermit snail. The vacant shells of these ever-growing slugs can be found wherever the snails have been. The dried slime inside the shells themselves have healing properties. Grind it up, make a little bit of a paste, and we spread it on the squid, who calms right down.
Well, that was just great. All right, here's your silver.
That's 30 silver doubled. Our reputation goes up to 17. Okay, great. So now we've got to keep making those commissions too, right, to keep up with the artificer. All right, let's see what this commission is. Who's it from? A friend. And what's it for? To replace a broken thing. And the deadline is, we've got 2 weeks. I'm going to roll on our patient list and see if we get someone we've interacted with before. 1, Migio. So what do we know about Migio? He's kind of a party slug. Migio comes. It's like, oh, hey, man. I was wondering, I was at a party and I kind of broke this sculpture. And the owners are going to be back in a couple weeks. And I was just wondering, like, I know you make stuff. Could you, like, make a replacement? And Pointage says, well, you know, I've been doing mostly metal work. I haven't really done sculpture yet. And Migio says, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So we're going to move into some sculpting, which works a little bit different than the metalworking. We're going to go into town and get a dwarvish auto chisel for 80 silver. So this is the kind of tool that if Pointage had spent his life sculpting like the other dwarves do, instead of being a wanton destruction, he would know how to use. But he's going to be just starting out. Right, so we're going to need to find some stone of significant value and then carve it into our sculpture. We're going to go looking for some float stone back at the Cloud Isles. We're going to need 3 units of it to meet the value for this commission. And we have a timer of 6 for this week. So we'll see what we can collect this week. And then whatever time we have left, we'll either try to carve or finish the carving next week. 7 or greater, we need to do that 3 times. 4. That's not working. You land next to a strange-looking cottage. It looks like it was landed here rather than built. Who lives here? Why? How do they get around? Every time you get this event, you may ask and answer a new question about this unconventional person. All right, well, let's draw a figure card. All right, I've got Trapper. We're going to call them the Fascinating Trapper and give them a name. Ahmed, the Fascinating Trapper. And what do they try to trap up here in the Cloud Isles? It's a creature connected to a deity. Is it one of the deities that we've already met? I'm going to say 1 for Stag, 2 for Devourer, 3 for new deity. Okay, so the Stag's Albatross. Pointage is, flying through on his wings through these Cloud Isles, finds a little cottage and meets Ahmed, the Fascinating Trapper, who has got all these, devices set out with these, hoops, try to catch these albatrosses. One of them isn't working right. And he calls out and he says, "Hey, can you help me out here?" Pointage flies over and kind of adjusts the ropes and says thanks. And Pointage lands and Ahmed says, "I haven't seen you around up here yet. Good to see you. I'm Ahmed, trying to catch the Stag's albatrosses." And Pointage says, "Is that a really good idea if these are connected to a deity? Wouldn't that anger the deity?" And Ahmed says, "Nah, don't worry about that kind of stuff." So that was one event. We've got 5 more this week. A 5. While foraging around one of the islands, you find a sealed packet of reagents, probably that fell from an airship. Draw a card and treat it as a plant of that value. A 5. It's going to be a packet of wild rose. Still no luck finding that float stone, though. 10. Here we go. A passing airship captain invites you aboard to warm your bones and get you some cloud tea. Where are they headed? Why? All right, so let's say they're headed to some faraway wetlands. And what's their motivation? We'll draw an engine. Wants to vanquish. Get a name. Cavara. Captain Cavara invites Pointage into her airship. She says, "We've got to go to the wetlands. We've got to vanquish everything that we find there. Here, have some tea." Very good. And you're looking for floatstone? Well, then, I've seen some right there. Thank you. All right. Well, nice to meet you, and we'll be off. We've got our 1 unit of floatstone. 3 turns left this week. A 7. Flying past one of the larger and more forested islands, you spy some rocks spelling out help. As soon as you land, a sailor comes rushing out of the bushes. They look and smell like they've been here for weeks. How did they end up here? Do you rescue them? Gain 5 silver if you do. Well, we'll take that 5 silver. We find the sailor and they're like, "I was on Captain Cavara's crew. She was off to the wetlands to vanquish it, and I couldn't stand for that, so she threw me overboard. Thanks for helping me." We got 2 more turns. A king. Flying overhead, you see someone walking along a rainbow. As you fly beside them, they introduce themselves as a minor god. Who are they? What are they the god of? You keep them company on their walk. At the end of the rainbow, they bid you well and disappear. If the stag has albatrosses up here, I think Pointage meets the stag. So there's this rainbow bridge, and there's this deity in the form of a stag that's like walking along. Great. So what do we learn? Let's draw a secondary attribute about this deity. This says their agenda is to defeat another deity, and that's got to be the Devourer, right? Yeah, we had sort of already suspected this. This stag is walking along. It says, "The Devourer has caused too much necromantic trouble. For too long, my followers are working diligently to stop the followers of the Devourer from completing their ritual." Pointage at this point is not really sure whose side he's on. Maybe he asks, "I heard that one of your followers, the speaker of the stag, was going after the witch of High Rannoc because of the herbalism that she uses." And the stag says, "Yes, it is unacceptable for the humans to use and bend the magic of this place to their own needs, to heal their own ailment. It is not something that the gods should have allowed, and I do not allow it. The Devourer sees things another way. that clarifies things. Pointage, I mean, he's been the village witch. He's going to be on the side of, using the resources that are available. So that's a third unit of floatstone. Oh, and this is a spade, so we need to draw an artificer event. Oh, and we drew a joker, so that's going to trigger a witch event. But let's resolve this artificer event first. 2. This area has carelessly been harvested already, +5 foraging value to all plant reagents until the end of the week. Well, that doesn't affect us, but what is this witch event? You see marks of an important conflict, broken trees or ground scratches on a surface, or maybe something less obvious. Whatever happened, the witch was definitely here. What do you think happened? Well, this is the area of the stag, right? She was probably on some sort of mission to sabotage or harm or espionage. She is still around and she is actively working against the stag, which makes sense. It also maybe makes sense why she's gone into hiding. So we are definitely putting some things together here. All right, and that is the end of the first week of summer. Let's get another ailment for this next week. An ace. Adventurer's rash. A common ailment for farmhands and apprentices. After coming into contact with a carrier, the afflicted gets an itching in their feet and, hopefully benign, twinkle in their eye. And who is it? Diamond? An adventurer. Oh, that makes sense. An adventurer. Okay. All right. We'll say it is the local innkeeper based on this card named Havrina. So some of the villagers come to get Pointage and take him back to the village, and we're to the inn where Havrina is, packing up and setting off and saying, "I've hosted too many adventurers in my time. I want to go out on an adventure myself." And the villager's like, no, we can't leave her. We gotta, can you do something? So we've already got one of the ingredients we need from our Scramble Bramble plot isles. We're gonna go look for some moon lotus. We have a timer of 4 and we just need to draw a 2 or higher. A jack. You stay out a little longer than you meant to and see the blue-green lights of the Aurora Lighthouse as it warns passing cloud ships of Moonbaker's treacherous summit. If you have a wand, you may bottle some of the Aurora for use as a decoration or to sell for 25 silver. Let's do that. We do have a wand. And we have this moon lotus. The sensitive plant stays shut during the day to protect itself from the sun's harsh light. Hikers use the glowing pollen to soothe sunburn and friction burn. All right, so picking the Scramble Bramble and the pollen for the moon lotus, we make up our tincture and give it to Havarina. And she calms down and decides to stay in High Rannoc and not go off on an adventure. All right, so we collected all our floatstone from last time. Now we need to sculpt it. So sculpture, we start out with 20 points, and each point left by the deadline lowers the value by 1. Tools can be used to remove these points. Okay, with the Dwarvish Auto Chisel, we decrease the timer by 2 and draw 2 cards and reduce the points on the sculpture equal to the card's value. Okay, so we have 6 turns. So basically we're going to be drawing 6 cards 2 at a time to try to get a total of 20. 2 and 3, that's a 5, 17. So that'll push us over 21. Great. Pointage is looking at the broken sculpture and looking at his floatstone and, using this Dwarvish auto chisel, this sort of innate dwarven knowledge that he has is able to come through, and he carves as his maker did and his maker's maker did, all the way back through the lineage of dwarves. And he carves this stone sculpture and gets it back to Migio, who's like, "Oh man, this looks exactly the same. Thanks, man. All right, here's that silver I promised you." All right, so, we need silver for the ailment this week too. Our reputation goes up to 19. We get 60 silver from the ailment. For our new system, for getting paid for commissions, that's going to be our craft level plus the value 29. And our craft level goes up by 4 to 12. And we've now completed a total of 2 commissions. All right, we've got a big pile of silver now, and I'm going to buy a coracle. And what that is going to do is going to open up another area for us to explore, the Blast Fire Bog. So that's 70 silver. What's our ailment this week? Week 3 of summer. The Queen. Tongue Stung. The recent trend in organic foods has led to some clever clogs. The afflicted included to try to get their honey straight from the hive. We need mouth, boils, and pain. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it's someone we've met before, just for fun. D12, 2. Oh, Zavina, that duck pilot. So she comes in and says,
I heard that the honey was really good, so I just tried to eat it out of the hive, and it stung all in my tongue. So, can you help me? Because I gotta, ship out. I'm flying a ship.
All right, so we're going to go to the Isles for some nimbus fish, and then we're going to come back down to the lock we need 2 units of shockfish. Fortunately, there's no timer on this one. Back to the Isles. We've been spending a lot of time here. We need to draw 3 or more. A queen. You run into a pair of old harpies having a day out. They call you over to say hello and to chat. They ask about you and tell you about themselves. What stories do they tell you? During the conversation, they also say they think they know where to find the reagent you're looking for, Keen. 4 foraging points. Well, that's really helpful. That puts us at 6. All right, what do they tell us about this place? I'm going to draw an origin card. They say, discovered by an animal guide.
The Cloud Isles discovered by the stag. He was the one who came up here on his rainbow bridge and bridged the clouds together, and now all sorts of creatures live up here. Yeah, the stag's great.
Interesting and good to know. All right, we got our nimbus fish. So now we need to go back down to the lock. Get some shockfish. 3. Oh, it's those gull drakes. Fortunately, we only have 1 reagent right now, so we bat them off. Oh, they're always a problem. Well, that puts our foraging value at 7, so we get 1 of the shockfish that we need. Now we just need 1 more. A queen. Oh, we get another message from the Queen of the Mermaids. What does she say this time? Engine card. She wants to find the path home. Hello, esteemed reader of this letter. I hope it finds you well. I am trying to find my way out of the lock and back into the ocean. This one pulls at him a little bit differently. He sort of felt like the last one was kind of a scam kind of thing. He doesn't respond, but this may be rethinking about what this Queen of the Mermaids in the lock is doing. Right, well, that's all the fish we need. So we take that all back and we help out Zavina. Right, so that's another 60 silver. Zavina says,
Oh, thanks. You've been really helping me out a lot. Again, let me know if you ever need a pilot. I got you.
Right. Our reputation goes up to 21, which means we've moved on to the next tier. So next week, we can start getting even more advanced ailments. And it's the end of the week, and we have no current commission, so let's take on another commission. Who wants this one? 9. A strange demon. And for the reason it's a secret. And we've got 3 weeks. Let's get a name for this demon. Thorada. Pointage is at the witch's cottage. This demon appears.
Hello, I am Thorada, and I wish for you to make me a sculpture. I cannot tell you why. It's a secret. You have 3 weeks. And now I am gone.
Pointage is going to go buy a Thru-seer. This is going to help him with the sculpting. All right, we're going to use some shadow stone. We need 3 units, and we can get it in the dungeon. 8 or higher. An ace. You took every precaution, but it turns out there was a trap not mentioned in your map. Thankfully, it wasn't fatal, but it has wounded you. Decrease the timer by 2 as to take the time to tend to yourself. Okay, so we've lost some time. Not great. 8. Someone has changed the puzzle room again. Write down whatever convoluted form the puzzle takes and write the solution you use to get past. Draw an anchor card. So there's like a weird lock, and there's all these different maybe flexion pieces of stone, and we have to assemble the little gems to form it into the shape to unlock the lock. And it's kind of annoying, but we do find a piece of our shadow stone. Oh, and that's a spade, so we need a artificer event. All right, 4. The artificer has placed some sort of machine here. What is it? What does it look like? All right, well, let's draw an object card. All right, this is also connected to a deity. And again, which deity is the artificer on the side of? We'll say 1 for stag, 2 for devourer, 3 for something else. 3 for something else. This one has shaker, and we draw a location. Pointage finds a machine, and it's the blade of the temple shaker. So it seems like the artificer also has a side in this conflict. There are maybe 3 sides. And blade of the temple shaker definitely seems like it's out to destroy other deities, other gods. It's spooky. Looking for more Shadowstone. Nope. All right, 5. You find a rough map of the dungeon lying on the ground. It's got a lot of details wrong, but it does point out the location of a reagent. Draw a card and treat it as a dungeon reagent of the same value. Well, we're looking for stone, so we'll just call this like a free draw, a 10. Okay, great. So we get another Shadowstone. But we did draw a spade, so it's another artificer event. The 2. Carelessly harvested plus 5 foraging value. So whatever this artificer is doing, they're obviously scouring lots of the different areas to try to make these machines. All right, I think we have 1 left. So let's see if we get our Shadowstone this week. A 9. While wandering in the deeper sections of the dungeon, you come across a scared-looking newbie adventurer. They offer you 10 silver to lead them out of the dungeon. Decrease timer by 1 if you do. Okay. And you know what? Just for fun, we'll say it's another one of those sheep. The sheep got the adventurer's rash and set out. Okay, so we have all the materials that we need for this shadow stone sculpture for the demon, but we'll have to continue making it next week. We're learning more about this conflict between the gods, between the stag and the devourer, and now entering is the artificer on the side of the temple shaker. So we'll have to see what happens next week on Apothecaria. Thanks so much for following along. Please like, subscribe, and share if you're enjoying this. This is Science Fantasy Awesome, and you are awesome.